Okay, welcome to AMM 120, Ratio Rate Probability Overview and Birth Rates and Death Rates in the U.S., Part 2. So this is the second part, and we're going to be talking about death rates or mortality. So this is what we mean by the mortality rate. In terms of death rates in the U.S., currently the last published numbers, as you can see the number of deaths, the death rate at 821.5 deaths per 100,000 people in the population. Life expectancy, lifespan is 78.8 years, and infant mortality rate is 5.96 deaths per 1,000 live births. So you can see we have over 2 million, basically 2.5 million deaths in 1 year. Okay, so that's death in the U.S. As you can see as to who has the greater numbers. Definitely in terms of life expectancy, females have a longer life expectancy typically than males. So when we have life expectancy, the 78.8, that's an average for male and female put together. But females do outlive males, which is, I think, nature's way of making things a little more even. Males have it easier in certain areas, and unfortunately, you die sooner. It's typically how it works. So females do tend to outlive males, their male counterparts. Um, but and crude numbers are 81.4 is a crude number, but it's 78.8 life expectancy right now. And you can see also in terms of breakdown, uh, Hispanic versus non-Hispanic black, non-Hispanic white, and the light green is all races and origin. So actually for Hispanic, we have a slightly longer lifespan. Non-Hispanic black, so black in particular, black males have the shortest lifespan, so at 71.6 currently right now. Now, basically, as of '08, the overall age-adjusted death rate in the U.S. was 758.7 per 100,000 in the population. In general, death rates are higher among states in the South and lower among states in the Northeast and West census regions. So this is just a typical breakdown, a visual, so you could see where we typically have the higher death rate. So this is the age-adjusted death rate. So you can go to the cdc.gov website to get this, and what you can do is I gave you the link, and you can click on it, and it'll give you the age-adjusted death rate per state. But as you can see, those in the darker blue have the highest death rate, and those with the lighter green have the lowest death rate. So if you want to live longer, you should probably live in the states that have the light green, and if you want to die sooner, go to the blue states. Why is this? So there's a question as to why is there a higher death rate in the South, for example? And I don't know if you guys can take a gander, but it's definitely there's a reason for that. We'll talk about it in a second, but I want you to think about that I'm going to leave that question. Why would the death rate be more accelerated in these states versus some other states? So think about that for a second. Now, when we're talking about death, we're talking about a death registration. And what is death? It's permanent disappearance of all evidence of life after a live birth has taken place. Okay, so for you to register for a typical death registration, you have to have been born. So after live birth has taken place, postnatal, uh, you have to have full-on evidence that no life exists. This definition excludes fetal deaths, meaning a stillborn. If you die in the womb, you actually don't get included in the regular death rate. You get included in the infant mortality rate. So you get put in a different category, in a different number. Okay, so there has to be complete cessation of life. Now, fetal death, that's death prior to the complete expulsion or extraction from the mother, regardless of the duration of the pregnancy. The death is indicated again by separation of fetus that does not show any signs of life, so no breathing, no pulsing, beating of the heart, no pulsating of the umbilical cord, no definite movement of voluntary muscles, etc. So there's no sign of life. They are dead prior to them being out of the womb, so in the womb. So this brings to the question about spontaneous abortion, which is the medical term for miscarriages. Most do occur in the first trimester. Between the 6th and 8th week are the most common. So between the 6th and 8th week are the most trivial. That's where we usually see the greatest amount of miscarriages. It's lowest among women that are 20 to 24 years of age and highest among 35 to 39. Unfortunately, though, we are seeing of those that are having children, we're seeing definitely seeing less women 20 to 24 having kids. We're seeing more women in the 35 to 39 lately. We're actually seeing more women having kids into their 40s, which we didn't used to see as much before. But now we're seeing more women having their career and then wanting to start a family. So we're seeing a little bit more of that. So if you noticed celebrities in particular and high profile people, and even some people that you might know, they don't really say anything about their pregnancy. If you notice, they'll announce the pregnancy well into their second trimester. Usually it's because they don't want to have to announce that there was a miscarriage, because the chances of miscarrying after age 35 and over dramatically start increasing. So, um, and as time goes by, it increases even more. So several of them probably have had miscarriages, and you just don't hear about it. So rather than announcing that, they wait until that time frame is over, and then they announce the pregnancy. Over half of these miscarriages, it's abnormality in terms of chromosomes. So that's usually causing the miscarriage. And just some quick stats as of '08. So you can see is the overall miscarriage rate, but you can see those under the 32 weeks gestational age, because we look in weeks instead of months. Under 32, most carriages take place under 32 weeks, then 32 to 33, 34, and it starts decreasing once you pass that first trimester. The chances really start decreasing, and they increase only slightly when you pass the 40, equal or greater than 42 weeks, because then the baby's been there a little too long. So infant mortality rate, it's not a rate technically. It's more like a ratio, but we call it a rate. Um, and it's not a probability, because the numerator includes events to live births, not included in the denominator. Events to births, not included in the denominator. So it's actually more of a ratio, but we call it a rate. Um, and definitely taking care, having prenatal care, and increases the chances or decreases the chances of having a miscarriage. Actually, after having the baby as a live birth, we do have still this phenomenon we call SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome, where an apparently healthy child dies suddenly while sleeping. The National Center for Health Statistics basically have attributed over 2,000 deaths alone in 1 year to SIDS. Four factors seem to increase it. We kind of fluctuate a little bit on this, but they claim a fluffy, soft mattress, being wrapped in a blanket while they're sleeping. Maybe they had a minor cold or minor illness that wasn't identified, and allowing the baby to be too warm. It's suffocating them. The idea is that usually they think they're asphyxiating themselves, but they're not sure. So one of the things that the new guidelines are, put the baby on their back. Sometimes you don't like to do that because you're afraid they're going to choke on their vomit if they spit up. But the concept is, if you lay them on their stomach and they try to turn their head, since they don't have the strong neck muscles, they stop midway and they can't cry out for help, and they get stuck that way, and that's how they die. Or the blanket stops and it covers their nose and their mouth, and they can't breathe. So the idea is that, even in a cold climate, you put them in a zip up onesie type of garment. You don't put any blankets, nothing that they can suffocate in. But we still don't fully understand and 100% know what causes it, unfortunately, which is scary, but it's still there. Now, in terms of the death registration, what data we put is the date of the occurrence, date of registration, place of occurrence, the cause of death, and the certifier who's certifying it. Okay. Um, Problems with the cause of death, the knowledge of the certifier. Sometimes their knowledge might be limited. For example, my father-in-law died last October, and we had the nurse there, and he basically certified the death. He uh, uh, basically documented the time. Had he made a mistake, though, he was a very young nurse, so what if he had made a mistake? So sometimes the knowledge of the certifier. Certifier may have never seen the deceased. Also, we have a controversial like heart versus brain function loss in terms of the definition of death, so it just varies there. It can get a little gray there. In terms of classification of causes, we have multiple and contributory causes of death. So the classifications do change. Okay, we're now at version 10. We've had two main people, John and Francois, that have contributed to classifying deaths. Okay, so we call it the International Classification of Diseases, the ICD. So right now in the U.S., the number of deaths for leading the number of deaths and the leading causes, definitely number one, heart disease. So going back to what I asked you, think about why death rate is so prevalent, higher in the South. It's because the leading cause of death is heart disease, and it's that Southern cooking. It's delicious, but it's so bad for you. They're not eating kale there. Let me tell you that. Let's put it that way. But delicious Southern comfort food, but it's very high in fat, very bad for your heart. So leading cause is heart disease. A second is cancer. Cancer is very prevalent. Next is chronic lower respiratory diseases. That's why you see a lot of that anti-smoking campaigns. Accidents, unintentional injury, stroke is next. Alzheimer's, diabetes, influenza, pneumonia, uh, neurotic nephrosis syndrome, intentional self-harm, which is suicide, at about 40,000 a year. So this is from the CDC.gov site, so you can take a look at more leading causes, but those are the top in the U.S. And again, our current life expectancy is 78.7, so we are living longer. We're creeping up to 80. We're going to approach 80 very soon. Clearly, it's gone up from, as you can see, from the 70s to the, this is from the last census, and it's gone slightly up since then. So yes, we are expecting with, the reason is why, the question is why? Well, the reason is obviously technology, medicines, improvements in medicines, people used to die, have a stroke or heart attack, and they'd be considered pretty much dead. Now you can survive multiple strokes, multiple heart attacks. People are a little bit more knowledgeable with the internet. You can look up diets for diabetes, for high cholesterol, things to help heart disease. Absolutely, you have all this access. More advanced machines for surgeries, etc. So that's definitely helped us live longer. So we are living a little bit longer. I did give you the link to the deathclock.com, which is kind of our internet's friendly reminder that we're all going to die. I thought it was a little interesting here. So you can take a look at that. Basically, it looks like this. And you put your date of birth, your sex, your BMI, um, smoking status, and it kind of gives you, your height, weight, and it basically gives you a little approximation of when your life expectancy is expected, how long it's expected to be based on, your BMI, your height, your weight, and your age, obviously. So they're just going by averages, but if you're interested or curious. So one of the things that I will ask in class is for you to talk about how you view, if at all, death. Is it, are you aware of your mortality? You ever think about it? Maybe a family member. Typically, what happens is if you had a family member die or a family member get seriously ill or have a serious accident, you start thinking about it. Typically, young people don't think about it. You kind of just live for today, think down the line. But some people do, especially if some diseases are hereditary or, there's things going down the line in their family and they realize, oh, I better take care of myself. As they say, you are what you eat and how you take care of yourself. So the question I pose for you and I want to talk about in class is, do you make any decisions based on your mortality, meaning your diet, exercise, based on your family history, illnesses in the family? Do you think about that? Do you make decisions now based on what you're expecting for the future? Excuse me. So those are questions that I'm posing for you to think about. Because look, again, the South has the fastest death rate, highest death rate, and it's, a lot of people are dying from heart disease, in particular in that area. So us in Southern California, where we're definitely more health conscious and more exercise friendly, I guess, we definitely had, we have the lower, we're in the light green, we have the lower rate. So things to think about, and wanted to know how you view it, and because sometimes we have this fascination for life and other people have this fascination for death. So want to discuss that in class and see where your thoughts are. Anyways, this concludes our second section on week 2 for AMM 120. Thanks.